There was a local legend in Costa Rica for decades about two shipwrecks near a national park. Everyone believed that they were pirate ships until this year when archaeologists decided to use dendrochronology, the scientific method of dating tree rings, and they found something way more sinister than they imagined. Evidence tied to a country that we hardly mentioned during the transatlantic slave trade. Denmark. These two shipwrecks are near Cahuita National Park in Costa Rica, and locals knew about these shipwrecks for generations, but it wasn't until the 1970s when it was officially documented, and even then they still thought that they were pirate ships. But then fast forward to 2015, a group of archaeology students decide to go down to these shipwrecks, and they randomly find a pile of yellow bricks. These yellow bricks turned out to be a major clue into figuring out that these were not pirate ships at all, but slave ships. They matched the exact color and measurements of Flensburg bricks, a type made from Danish clay and shipped out in the 1700s to build forts and sugar plantations in Denmark's colonies. And then they did a chemical analysis, and it confirmed that the clay came from one of two brickworks in Denmark. Then, to be extra sure, they brought in dendrochronology, the tree ring test, and they found that the wood from these shipwrecks was oak, and it was from the Western Baltic, cut in the 1690s. They had shipbuilding records from Denmark and matched them, and all of the evidence pointed to two specific ships, the Fredricus Quartus and the Christianus Quintus. Let's take it back to 1708 real quick. These two slave ships left Copenhagen, Denmark, headed towards Ghana. They took 700 enslaved Africans from Ghana, and then they headed towards St. Thomas, a Danish colony at that time. But then they had navigational issues and ended up crashing near that national park in Costa Rica. And then there was a rebellion. One ship was set on fire, and the other was completely abandoned. When archaeologists were looking at the timbers on one of the ships, they noticed that it was burned and charred, which matched the historical records from Denmark, confirming that these were in fact slave ships. The 700 enslaved Africans that were on these two ships, 100 of them were recaptured, 600 escaped, and their descendants became part of the region's Afro-Costa Rican population. And this all ties back to a country that we barely mention when we talk about the transatlantic slave trade. Denmark participated in the slave trade for 150 years until 1803, when they were the first European nation to abolish slavery. And the archaeologists behind this project say this isn't just about a slave ship discovery, it's about ancestry. One Costa Rican woman, Celia Ortiz, said she can trace her family back to one of the enslaved men aboard one of these ships, a man named Miguel Maroto. She said learning the truth about her family's story brought new light to their lives. I hope you learned something new.